The following program is intended for mature audiences.
Oh, yeah. We're here talking whores on Flesh Wound After Dark. I'm Flesh Wound Dan, joined by Producer Todd.
Good evening.
Producer Todd, how are you doing?
I am doing fine tonight. Getting ready to talk some horrors for Valentine's Day. Excited.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's the Valentine's horror special. So yes, we're talking we're talking, well, multiple horrors, I guess, throughout these two movies. So yeah. So guys, be sure to hit that thumbs up, spank that thumbs up, share the link, help the channel grow, all that good stuff. And yeah. So we've actually wanted to do this show for a long time, and we knew that we were going to get some new editions of this. One from Umbrella,
Imprint. One from Imprint, one from Kino Cult, and I will give you the definitive answer of which is the version to pick up at the end. So stay tuned. I'll tell you if Dan made the right choice to wait or not. That's what we'll go with.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong, because somebody told me Horror 2 is coming from Unearthed.
I haven't heard that, but I would be happy with that.
Yeah, that's not like inside or anything. That's just somebody said that. So, well, if it's not, I apologize.
I'm not a Horror 2 authority.
Okay.
When it comes to the first one, I am a huge fan. So
yeah, I didn't see it anywhere else. So I was like, okay. So apologies, Unearthed, if I tagged you in something.
But if not, you should. Why not?
Yeah, you should. You should. So take that as a it kind of tracks honestly with what they've been putting out on their Unearthed classics line. You know, Tokyo Decadence and everything. Horror 2 kind of makes sense.
It's a Lionsgate title, so I'm curious.
Yeah, I thought that was weird too. I mean, and it's just one person that told me that, but I don't know. May or may not be true, so who knows. But yes. If you're not, sorry for tagging you. All right. So Todd, I know you're a super fan of the first film, so we'll have some good details for you guys on this. Ooh, you got the whole. There you go.
I got a lot of horrors around here. There we go. There's all my horrors.
Oh, damn, Todd. 2 VHS, 3.
And I couldn't find my poster in time for the background, but when I find it, I'll take a picture and post it on the good old Instagram.
Okay. Yeah. I'm curious to see that. I never owned that poster, even in my more heavy.
I had the Horror 2 poster, but unfortunately, I think that one was damaged with my one batch of poster my cats got a hold of.
Oh, okay.
I know Horror survived because I've seen it in the garage when I've been going through posters, but I think it's time to put it in the frame.
Yeah. Horror is frame worthy, I think, but we'll see. We'll talk about it. So from 1991 and director Ken Russell, we have Horror. So notorious filmmaker Ken Russell brings his unique brand of madness to this searing look at a night in the life of a prostitute. Theresa Russell gives a daring performance as the cynical pretty woman who's seen it all, done it all, and now tells it all. As Liz confesses her darkest secrets in a brilliant stream of consciousness monologue, adapted from the play Bondage by David Hines, horror employs a multi-layered structure that captures the complexity and brutality of sex work in the tarnished city of angels. All right, so Horror, Todd. What's your history with it? Because this was kind of notorious because, you know, back in the day, there were only so many NC-17 movies, you know, that was kind of like the like, ooh, you know, I need to see this kind of rating. And of course, I guess Showgirls would be the most famous one, but horror is up there. What was when you first saw it versus now? What's your story?
I'll tell you how I first got it. I remember it was this tape, red side. There was 3 versions.
Mm-hmm.
There was the rated R horror tape. It also sometimes would have a sticker over it. If you can't say it, see it.
Okay.
But I followed this from the theatrical. It was one that I had wanted to see. It was in our local paper. It was advertised with the if you can't say it, see it banner across it in the Orange County Register ads, because you know horror was too scary. So but I'd always get the Friday LA papers too, to get the big calendar section with all the movies. And now when it was full page ad, horror, like I have those cut out somewhere. That's what I was really looking for, to find the original newspaper ads, because it was a full page color one in the LA Times. Yeah. So it was pretty awesome. But of course, because the film came out rated NC-17, I could not go see it. I was about 14 when this came out, so I had to wait till home video. And this is the days where I hung out at the video store. I looked at the magazine, so I knew everything. So this one had 3 versions coming out. As I said, the rated R version,
which ran like, what was the runtime?
Well, I'll get into all that stuff when we talk about the version later.
Okay.
And then there was the NC-17 rated theatrical cut, and then of course the unrated cut, which is the one that I had to see, obviously.
Yeah.
So I've told stories before where I'd have to they'd hold Henry for me, or Henry and June, the Henrys, the NC-17 ones. So my mom would have to come and pick them up. Luckily, with this one being unrated, my local video store, that was a workaround, because hey, it was just unrated, so I could rent it. So
yeah.
That was one lucky thing about that. So I got to see it. I was the right age. It's the anti-Pretty Woman, which I've always had my issues with.
You had a pretty epic rant on Pretty Woman with a guest on the show that used to do sex work,
which exactly proves my point of why that movie is so damaging to women.
It is. Oh yeah, very much so.
And horror was like giving you a glimpse of what it really, as close as you could get a glimpse into what it was like, until years later with Pimps Up, Hose Down. But that's another great film to talk about.
Dope Sick Love is another one that kind of, yeah.
But yeah, it just, something about it, it was, I don't think it was my first Ken Russell film, but it was the first time I was like, I'm remembering his name and I want to, see more. And it's funny because compared to his other ones, this one, it has all of his signatures, but it's a little more subdued. I mean, it's not like as you watch Crimes of Passion, there's a different feel. It's a bigger, more colorful. This is but it works for the subject, the way it's kind of stripped down, but all of his hallmarks are still there. I mean, there were things that I was attracted to as a youth, a young 14-year-old, that probably are not the same reasons I love this movie now. Because it's funny, because the movie's it is a raw look. It's not really titillating when it comes down to it. I mean, I probably threw some damaged things in my head with the unrated cut, but we'll talk about the differences in that. The one extended scene that, every time I watch the NC-17 cut, I do immediately notice is missing. And knowing me, when I explain what it is later, you'll understand why. Okay. But I do want to say, since we are the versions that have been put on Blu-ray, and the one we will be reviewing tonight specifically, is the NC-17 cut, which is technically the director's cut. And we'll get into more about the reasons about that later. I kind of want to focus on the film itself first. So before we get into all the version stuff, because that's complicated, and I just give a little taste of, just so you know where we're going in regards to this. So
okay, yeah, no, it for me, I mean, I've told the story a million times when I had to sneak into Showgirls. I was still much too young to even sneak into horror. So, yeah, that was something that I had to wait a bit to to get a hold of. Not even the easiest one to rent because I couldn't really bullshit my parents. It's like, oh, horror is a rollicking comedy. I couldn't really make that one happen. But I did, finally get to see it. And for those of you who have no idea what this movie is, this isn't a softcore film. This isn't, late night cable smut, which obviously we love here at this channel. This is, a very well made, funny, but also serious at times, portrait of, a whore, a hooker, whatever the proper term is. But um, so it is based on a play. David Hines, as the story goes, at least Ken Russell's point of view, was a cabbie.
UK cabbie.
Yeah, he was a UK cabbie, and he recognized Ken Russell and basically just drove right in front of him. It's like, I have a script for you, and that's what kicked it off. He did have a play called Bondage, and it felt like a match made in heaven. Essentially, this play was inspired by him not picking up hookers to partake in anything, but picking them up and hearing their stories. And yeah, that's sort of the genesis of this. Obviously, Ken Russell loved it. And I know there was some changes along the way. Apparently, Elizabeth McGovern was the initial first choice of the production company, but she passed on doing the movie because it was just too explicit. So Theresa Russell was supposedly Ken's choice to do it all along. So thank God she did. The movie, we've certainly seen some movies about prostitution that are very, dark, heart wrenching. This is funny. It is, a funny look at it. I mean, we get a lot of comedic scenes, like the old man at the nursing home that likes to be, beaten with his cane. And, it's not all oh my God, just, I can't take this anymore kind of stuff. It's humorous, but there is a serious side of it. They go into her her son and everything. I think it's a very good movie. It's extremely well written. It happens in the movie that caused the NC-17 rating. It's just very explicit dialogue. Does it deserve an NC-17 rating? I don't know. I would say no, but you might have a different opinion on that. I suppose
I no, it's obviously the subject matter. This is 91. The Academy was not going to be. It's like one of those. Remember, they used to give you an NC-17 for a gay kiss back then. I mean, I think that's up until not very long ago, to be honest with you.
I think it's But I'm a Cheerleader, because Natasha Lyonne, or one of the characters, was flicking the bean in a non-graphic way. that got them.
No, it was the content of the story with that one.
Yeah.
I mean, again, like I said, they weren't the MPA wasn't very
gay friendly.
Yeah. Then I mean, it was always, yeah. And I think just this subject matter, I mean, it's a subject, Hollywood doesn't really want to talk about, I don't think. Especially when it's set in LA.
I was gonna say that does make sense. And I know, again, it's the vernacular and everything. I mean, everything's pretty authentic. And screenwriter Deborah Dalton, she also basically paid hookers to just have coffee with her and tell their stories.
She actually did that on another project before this, not horror. I know in the interview.
It was.
On the interview on the Kino disc, that part's left out, but it was for a project earlier. that she was
Oh, that's
working on.
interesting.
She
Okay,
was
I'll
already working on a script in that world
uh-huh.
before, and I think that went nowhere. And then she got this. So yeah, it's funny because the interview a couple years before she mentions that part, but this one's different. This one had a lot more. Again, I'm getting into stuff for later, but
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
So
No, that's interesting. I mean, she also kind of took a more British story of that and kind of made it American.
yeah, she said she had a lot of the language too, like just some of the words didn't make sense, but
Yeah.
yeah, she had to Americanize it.
Yeah. So lots of great character actors in the movie. Some is the Johns. Robert O'Reilly, who was a regular. He played Gowron on Star Trek Deep Space Nine and Next Generation. He's the character that's trying to get Roadhead from Theresa. Again, a lot of it's darkly humorous, even though
Tom Villard is always the one who pops up here towards the end, is like the hippie-ish guy. That's like it throws me off because this is not the world I expect to see any of his characters in. Because he's been in a ton of stuff in he just like, it's just funny when I see him in this. I mean, it's just like, the sitcom guy and does all this light fluffy stuff in horror, picking up a hooker.
Yeah.
And the first guy also, it always reminded me of Jefferson Darcy trying to pick up a whore. So
yeah, a lot of really good character actors throughout this movie who aren't necessarily in it long. Because I mean, again, Teresa's on screen the whole time. And we have the Indian guy who doesn't want to wear a condom.
the pumping his bike guy, yeah.
Yeah, he's one of the funny ones. There's some like again, I really do think it's the dialogue that got it.
No, it is the dialogue, because well, again, we'll get to that later. Like it is the dialogue that was, I think, the biggest problem, because there's not, because I don't think the sex goes over the line except for one thing that's cut in all the versions except the unrated.
Yeah, I'm curious to hear your rundown of that, because again, I've seen this movie multiple times and I've probably seen all the versions, but it's been a minute.
Yeah, I'm sure. Well, we'll get to that. Other cameos, I mean, that we kind of haven't talked about yet. We have Danny Trejo pops up as a tattoo artist.
Yeah,
this is probably one of the earliest things I remember him, because he's very, memorable when you see him.
This is kind of that period where he was in a ton of shit, sometimes uncredited. He started in '85 on Runaway Train, so right. He'd been acting a bit at this point, but
this is like the first time I remember taking notice, because I'm pretty sure he's in Colors also, but it didn't like stick till this. I know he's in Vida Loca later.
There's some B movies where he's literally just in the background.
Yeah. And I'm your favorite, the stabbed whore.
Yes.
Ginger Lynn.
Ginger Lynn. She did not have as big of a part as I remembered. I actually remember a few more lines from her, but I did still pop seeing her in this.
She was not a fan of the title.
Well, you know what though?
As a legitimate sex worker, though, it makes sense, because to her, she said, being a whore feels like,
consider that though very different from this. I think that would have been a really good interview. It's too bad they didn't get her to talk about it.
Well, we'll talk about that later.
Okay.
You threw me off that.
Sorry.
No, that's fine. I'll get my train of thought back. Like the title whore, because to her, like, a whore is someone who does something for money they don't want to do, and that's the difference. So Theresa Russell is doing what she wants to do, so I guess in her mind, like, the word, it doesn't work. So I guess technically, if you think that's, I don't know, like the dictionary definition exactly, but it fits in. So she had a problem. She wasn't a fan of the title. We'll go with that. because she thought it meant a little different.
Yeah, I get that.
But like I said, she's the only legitimate, well, in this one at least, sex worker.
Oh yeah, we'll get to two. But yeah, I mean, some of the dialogue in here, it's like you don't do white doubles, only single. That was like, ooh, man, I don't remember it being that rough.
I think we have Cliff's dictionary definition. A whore has sex for money, a slut does it for fun. Well, yeah, that's pretty much rule of thumb.
There you go.
Why can't New Beverly play this double feature? I'd be all in.
You know, one scene that gets criticized a lot was with her and her soon to be pimp at that expensive restaurant where I mean, it's a long scene. I think it's like 7 minutes, and she's just like shitting on like all the weird food that he's trying to get her to eat, and like, this looks like a dick and this tastes like a dick.
Crabs Julian, that was my favorite. Don't you remember Julian, the whore who had all the crabs?
Yeah.
Yes, I saw it pop up earlier, and I was going to mention, this is not Pretty Woman, and it is noted, and it is even mentioned by the writer of this film, that the original version of Pretty Woman, the script that went around, was a lot closer to horror in its tone than the movie that glorified prostitution for all young women across the world.
I don't see Julia Roberts properly delivering lines about like how Johns wanted her to take a shit on them, though. Like, apologies for my dog.
Loves the horse.
He loves the horrors too.
And do you remember? We have it like on film so you can hear it. Long ago, I explained to you what a strawberry was, and in this film, the whore across the street is a strawberry, trades pussy for crack.
Yeah, it's funny. I've probably heard that in a lot of different movies and never really knew what that was. But yeah, this does kind of run down like everything. And what a great ending too, because again, this movie does get quite serious. I mean, there's the assault in the van, and some very unpleasant stuff, but it still kind of maintains its sense of humor. It never becomes a film that tries to romanticize it, or because I do think Pretty Woman is a entertaining film, but it's and you could make an argument that it's really kind of a crappy film at the same time.
Sorry, Pugs.
But yeah, I gotta think he loves this one more though, or if he's seen it. I don't know.
He was unavailable for tonight.
yeah, but great ending, and I think it works. Like I said, it's not necessarily, I think, how I originally thought this movie would go, but makes sense without, again, being unrealistic. Or
the 14-year-old in me just wanted to see a movie called Whore about prostitutes because I knew I'd see some boobs. Little did I know I'd have a lifelong film that I loved, and have owned multiple. Again, I really like a film when I don't get rid of any of my previous versions of it, and I still have every whore I've ever had.
Yeah.
Not my basement. There. I said not my basement.
You save them all with slip covers. But yeah, I mean, there's not a ton of nudity. Like, again, I think if you go into it for that, you're going to be disappointed. Although there is that iconic shot of Theresa Russell kind of in the bondage gear, just bare boobs, and then that thong walking up the steps to beat the old guy with his cane.
There was enough for a 14-year-old to have fun with the tape.
There was. I'm sure you wore that tape out.
It still plays like brand new. Although I did transfer it to DVD to preserve it. So,
and Theresa Russell, I mean, she's an amazing actress. She hasn't made a film in over a decade now, sadly. But she looks good. She's aging well, gracefully, and looking good. I always really liked Eureka, another movie she did. Of course, she was married to to Nicholas Roeg. So she's certainly knows talent. She did several films for him, I believe like 6 movies or so.
There was the run of 90s films right before and after this that I remember, like Black Widow's one I enjoy.
Black
Impulse.
Widow's good. Yeah.
Impulse came out right before this, and Cold Heaven was another, not as good, but that one stuck out because it was right after horror, and it's when I was a fan. So that one I think I still have a Laserdisc.
She was in a good film, one of Jessica Chastain's earlier movies, Jolene. She's a very underappreciated actress. I mean, obviously it didn't go that way, but I mean, I could have easily have seen her standing on an Oscar stage.
Well, here's the thing about her, and she states this in her interview. I know I'll just say this one now since it's related. Mm-hmm. That she talks about she going to Hollywood parties, and she wasn't interested in getting passed around like the other ones there, because she said that's what was happening. That's how they all. So she wasn't playing the game, and that's why her fame level kind of. She didn't get Pretty Woman. She got whore. We'll just say it like that.
Yeah, she kind of hit the ceiling. Yeah.
But yeah, she openly talks about how it was then. She was also, this is a topic. I mean, like pro legalizing prostitution. I mean, it eliminates the whole pimp problem. I mean, kind of like the monologue we get, and I was going to call him his Starsky and Hutch's name, but what's his name? The Rasta.
Yeah, he's greght in this too.
Rasta, that's his cheese. Yeah, Rasta. Antonio Fergus.
Yeah, Antonio Fargas. Yeah, he's another great character actor that appears in this. And I guess, would you consider this the definitive movie on street walking, or
there's some quite other good ones that I do enjoy, but those are kind of a cross between just LA kids and stuff like Streets with Christina Applegate's another good one, but that's more just like LA kids too. I think this is like the answer to Pretty Woman. I mean, this is, the non-sugar coated. I also like it because it's a slice of life movie, a day in the life, where even though it does kind of give a weird vibe, like the places in LA that he like chooses to shoot at.
Yeah.
It's like they're barren streets, and like you're not in the part of LA you typically see in a movie, and it kind of gives it a different world feel. And like they go into like back room, like strip clubs and bar. They're like in weird place, like inside of LA that you don't see in some of these.
You don't see in movies. I mean, it exists.
Well, but a lot of it was fictional though too. But it does create this like different world. Like it is like it's real, but it's not.
Yeah, I get that. Wouldn't it be funny if it was like Julia Roberts was the one that was just like fucking everybody, and like Theresa was just like, no, I pass.
Right.
And it's funny too, because Ken Russell kind of had that reputation for negatively impacting some of his actresses' careers. I know people have said that about Kathleen Turner in Crimes of Passion, Glenda Jackson in The Music Lovers. Although certainly I would say that some of their more well-known films and got awards for them. All again, fantastic performances, and maybe a little more graphic than some of them were hoping for, but I think the art will survive forever when it comes to Ken Russell. I mean The Devils. I mean, my God. Yeah. We also didn't mention Jack Nance of Twin Peaks fame, who also appears. He's actually one of the more kind characters in this film. He has a crazy thing. I think he was murdered at a donut shop or something wild. But yeah, and Theresa Russell had some weird gigs too. A lot of people forget she dubbed Daria Nicolodi in Tenebrae. Yeah, so she had a lot of interesting jobs, and worth kind of going through her filmography again. But yeah, you're right. She kind of hit that ceiling, and there was no.
No, she didn't want to play the game.
No.
Good for her. You know,
Yeah,
she
good
didn't
for her.
play the game. She grade, you know, she's aged gracefully. She has an outstanding body of work, and she's admitted there she should have done other projects, and like she could have went out for the more profitable versus the one that she really like had a passion for. But
Yeah.
I think she made the right choice. I mean, she has a great career, and she has some great films in her catalog.
There's a lot. Wild Things in 98, I believe.
What was the early one? Bad Timing?
Yeah, she's got a lot of good. She's one of those actresses that I really do think it's worth going through her filmography. Who knows? Maybe we'll tackle some other.
I've been wanting to watch Black Widow and Impulse, so those are two at the top of my list of revisiting.
There you go. We'll make that happen. I'll give you a very difficult question, and obviously, I think this one's more realistic, certainly. But Anora or horror? So I know you love them both.
I think I just love horror.
Yeah.
Which is because I really don't. Man, I don't know.
It's a tough one.
Yeah, I mean, if we're going for like a depiction, I mean, I think horror is like the story of a prostitute. I mean, it's really like, I mean, so it depends what we're looking for. That's so yeah.
I mean, they're both prostitutes. I mean,
they are.
Yeah. I guess Anora is
that's
not the streetwalker, but
no, that's a slice of life movie too. So that's hard. Well, now they're should have been horror 3. Damn it! Where was Lionsgate to get the rights?
It did feel like they could have not. I 100% guarantee it would have went into like erotic thriller. Like Shannon Tweed was going to be in horror 3 or horror 4, if not horror 3.
They should have just went that route. We'll get to that too, because I think we'll talk all the versions before we move to 2. So I guess so keep it with this section. So do we want to rate it before I get into the versions and all that fun stuff?
Yeah, let's.
I mean, if you have more to talk about, throw it out. I mean, I'm sure it'll come up as we're talking about the cuts, but
yeah, I'm sure we're gonna have more to say when we talk about the cuts. So yeah, let's rate it.
All right. Well, you'll go first because I don't think I'll be a hard one to figure out.
You know, revisiting this one, it's so unique. I mean, Ken Russell's again one of those directors that I'm kind of a fanboy for, although I would not give every film he did this high of a rating, but I got to go 5. I knew it was like nothing I'd ever seen when I saw it for the first time, and I think it still holds up, and I think there's something there to appreciate for I don't want to say everybody, but if you're okay with this subject matter, I think it's a really fascinating and fun film.
Yeah, I'm absolutely a 5. I love this film. I have since I've seen it. I think I've enjoyed it for different reasons as I've gotten older.
Yep, 5 stars. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. Again, no surprise. I've mentioned this is one of my favorite films. And all right, let's talk the versions. Well, first, I'll just start with since I only have 2 of the versions, because there's actually 3 VHS tapes. The first one we have is the R-rated one.
Ooh.
See right down here, it says, R-rated. This version contains basically telling you it's cut. There was another version that said had the sticker that said, if you can't say it, see it over it on the front, side, and top. And yeah, so that's the horror tape. And then we had the rated R tape, which I don't have. And then we had the NC-17 tape, had the nice yellow gatefold on it too.
Yeah, I remember that.
But okay, I'll tell you the versions. I'll start with the runtimes.
Yes.
Most people say there's 3 versions, but there's technically 4 versions. There is the NC-17 theatrical rated version, which is 85 minutes long, which is considered the director's cut because that is the cut that Ken Russell wanted.
Mm-hmm.
And they, Ken wanted nothing to do with the R-rated cut, so he had nothing to do with it. So they created an 80-minute R-rated home video cut so that Blockbuster would carry it, and some other, places that were a little hesitant. Well, they didn't want the NC-17 version, obviously, because Blockbuster wouldn't have that. Now, with the unrated version, as I mentioned, it's not the director's cut. This is definitely done this was the exploitive cut. We'll just call it that. They knew the stuff that they were putting in and extending and doing alternate takes, that was for the purposes of titillation, to give it a little more, to be able to have that unrated banner of the erotic thrillers of the era. So while it is still the cut that I would like the HD version of, which we don't have, but we'll get into that when we get to those. This cut runs, while it's listed most places as 93, that's actually not correct. It only runs about 3 minutes longer than the 85-minute NC-17 version.
Okay.
It runs about 88 minutes. Now, the time difference comes from one really specific scene, and I know everyone's probably not going to remember it, but I'll tell you which one it is. It is in the scene. Hold on. Where's my notes? Okay. You remember the scene where she's sitting in the bar and she's describing the hateful sex she was having with the guy. And it's like, he's like fucking her up against a wall.
A
little angrily. In the rated R cut, that lasts about 5 seconds, with just long enough for him to kind of sound like a dickhead. Okay. In the NC-17 theatrical director's cut, it runs about 15 seconds. So you get to see a little bit more of that hate. Now, in the unrated cut, and this is the one that I've always been bummed it was cut. You get the full 1:15 hate fuck where he's like, just the shit he's saying is rough. Even for the NC-17, they had to pull it.
Okay.
So that's a bulk of that minute runtime. Is that
if this was Unearthed Films, they would have kept that in there. God damn it.
Well, that's the thing. I don't think there's a film print of anything other than the NC-17 cut. The lock negative is definitely the NC-17 cut. And so the other, that's the big scene. That's the main, that's the one that bums me out that it's not there. Now, there's another section, basically the pimp monologue, where he's talking and we're cutting with Theresa Russell and Rasta in the theater. And you're just kind of like having his take on a pimp, her take on her take on being a whore, and we're cutting back and forth. While all of Theresa Russell's scenes are basically the same, they use different takes of the monologue from the pimp with a little bit more explicit language. It runs a little longer. It's different takes. So it's conveying the same thing, but with harder takes.
Okay.
So and harder and longer, and that bulks up the majority of that other 2 minutes.
Harder takes is in the take is in
language.
He's describing the
So that's and it doesn't really mess up the flow of the film. Like obviously, it's the director's cut, or the NC-17 cut is the director's cut. But I mean, but they both convey the same thing. It's just a little bit more and a little bit more explicit. Those are the main things. There might be a couple other random shots that don't affect the time, but those are the big two. And for me, the big one is that the one, that's been trimmed. But
I can kind of see a minute and a half, you said, or a minute 15.
Well, you get 15 seconds in the theatrical. It feels like, I know people, a minute, that ain't, that it doesn't, but it is. It's a minute extra of just him talking shit.
I get it. Like, that's longer than you think for a scene that's not meant to be titillating. Like, you're not trying to, bump and grind, do the Shannon Tweed thing. Like I said, you would have gotten that in Horror 3, but alas.
If only. I mean,
Oh,
so
it would have 100% got Andrew Stevens and Shannon Tweed in there at some point.
Well, now we'll talk about the Blu-ray. So there
Yes.
you have the different versions. Now, both Blu-rays, one from Import Films, one from Kino Cult.
Was it imprint or Umbrella?
Yes. No, it's Imprint. I've said it multiple times. Yes.
Okay, my bad. I don't know why I thought Umbrella, but I'm off today. I think Unearthed is doing something they may or may not be doing, and then
But this one came out. That's probably well, actually, let me tell you what the release date on this one. This one came out, a couple years ago, July 2022. So I've had this one for a while. and I know we were going to do the show closer to when this came out, but Dan was determined to wait for this one, and we did. Now I'm going to tell Dan if he was right to wait or he should have just pulled the trigger when I told him to. We'll get to that later. But first, we're going to talk about the newly released Kino disc, which has a beautiful transfer. And I will just get this out of the way. They're the same transfer. They're both the Lionsgate supplied ones. So transfer wise, you're good. Okay. Extra wise, we'll go with this one first. We have an audio commentary by Tim Lucas.
Mm-hmm.
We also have, I forget the writer.
You're doing Imprint right now.
No, we're doing Kino Lorber first.
Okay.
The American one. We have an audio commentary by Tim Lucas, interview with the screenwriter, Deborah Dalton, and the video comparison of alternate versions and theatrical trailer. Now, let me just say this. The interview is good. Great from the writer. Definitely recommend it. Dan, you checked out some of the commentary and you said it was good too.
Yeah, Tim Lucas always.
Yeah, he's kind of dry, but he's very informative.
Yeah.
Now, Tim Lucas also does the video comparison. And I'm going to tell you this. After I did all my research, took all my notes, watched it, I was like, God damn it, you son of a bitch. Could have just watched this. It literally covers pretty much everything I covered. I think I gave a little bit more, but like they show you the version. They have footage they play you the footage, the NC-17 and then the R-rated. So they show you. Yeah. So you can see all three versions of that scene I just said, the hate fuck.
Yeah.
They'll show you the 5-second R version, the 15, and then the full minute and a half. So at least it's preserved on there. And then they do the same with the like I said, the monologue part. Although they present it kind of weird, they do section by section because it is a long scene. So they do each scene repeat of that one long bit because they do a lot of bits over and over. So, and the one thing, I wish Kino would have, I would have sent him a good copy of the unrated version that they could have actually seen. It's like got like digital noise all over. It was pretty rough on the unrated cut, but yeah, whatever. So that I loved that feature because I wish I would have watched it first before I did double checked all my research. But yeah, very good feature, 100%. So you can check that out. That's on that. Now let's come to the horror release from, I almost said Umbrella, you son of a bitch, from Imprint Films in the UK. And the extras for this is we also have the theatrical trailer.
Yeah.
We have Artist, an interview with Theresa Russell, runs 14 minutes. Very good interview. Definitely recommend it. We have Dignity with Ginger Lynn Allen, runs 10 minutes, who also talks her experiences on horror, talks about her experience with Ken Russell, which wasn't the best. She talks about him being drunk that night on set, and so there's a whole thing. She talks about him like acting out all of her scenes before she did them, just like do it like this. So
yeah,
pretty entertaining.
I've met her a lot. I've actually had conversations. She is sweet. Like, she's really nice. I don't know how she was. A weird period. Like, you're still doing porn, but you're trying to go legit.
It's funny because you mentioned the sweet thing, and like I've brought this up on other things we may discuss in the future. I've been listening to the Tracy Lords not documentary podcast about the whole thing, and Ginger Lynn's in it quite a bit. And one of the things that people talk about is like how Ginger Lynn, I know it's funny to say she was kind of innocent, but she was like in the industry and she was nice, and she didn't realize how bad the industry was until they all turned on her in the trial. So I think it's just interesting, but she was generally a good person. I know people think porn stars are like not, but they're still
no.
It's weird. But okay, we have that great interview. We have Raw. It's an interview with Deborah Dalton, who's also on the other one, which gives a little bit more information that's not in the other one, different information. So I'm glad the interview
recorded at a different time. Like
yes.
Okay.
Funny though, I did notice in the credits both were recorded by Jim Coons, who I've worked with many times up at the studio out here. So I was like, oh well, he did record them both though. So
yeah.
But yeah, so another good interview. And then Provocateur. We have it's an interview with an X-rated auteur, Bruce LaBruce. He's a UK guy.
Yeah.
I wasn't really familiar with him, but he gives a really good, piece and appreciation for, the film, and Ken Russell. Runs about 13 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
And then what it had was really cool. It had a video essay, legitimate and illegitimate women in Ken Russell's whore, but it talks about just like prostitution in film and like the books and how it like started all the way up. It covers Pretty Woman, whore. It's a great piece. It runs a half hour. Highly recommended. And to close out the Imprint Films release, it also has a exclusive commentary recorded by critics Alexander Heller Nicholas and Joss Nelson. I do say the Tim Lucas one is the better commentary, but from listening to that, which is the one that is the definitive edition. I'm sorry, Kino. You could have done the one thing that Imprint couldn't and put the unrated version on there. Didn't happen. So the winner is the Imprint Films release by a long way.
Now, is that not out of print though?
I believe like the one with the slipcover is, but you can still get it.
Okay. Yeah, it sounds like it. I mean, it's also more expensive, so there's that to consider as well.
It wasn't when I told you to buy it when it first came out, because I got it for about 25
I just figured, I was like, I can wait because
I was going to do it better, but you know what? Definitive. The fact that it has, they got Theresa, they got Ginger. The fact that Kino didn't, maybe they did try to license them, but it makes. I'll be honest. When I found out it was the same cut, I was kind of hesitant to do it, but I love horror and I want every edition, so that's why I still bought it. But great transfer, and if you don't want to import it, I'm not saying this is a bad version at all. Just not definitive. I have to go with the Imprint release for that.
Okay.
Because to me, there's not a definitive one till we get that long cut.
Yeah, I don't know at this point that you're going to.
No, I don't think so. If Kino couldn't pull it off, I don't think it's happening.
But no, that is probably as great a rundown as you'll ever get for horror. So you can make your decisions now.
I love my horror.
You certainly do. That is wild.
Told you I was a fan, Dan.
Well, out there, if you put out that deluxe steelbook, that you got tied by the balls. So, yeah. So yeah. I'm curious with this one if anybody's going into this movie for the first time, what you think. 91. It's been a minute. So up next, Todd.
We do that. Jeez. That's 29 years. No. What?
No, it's longer than that. It's let's see.
34 years.
Yeah.
Damn.
Yeah, 30. Yeah.
Breakfast Club, as of this recording on Valentine's Day 2025, Breakfast Club turns 40 tomorrow.
Oof,
yeah.
That's wild. Although it makes total sense. You know who, speaking of aging well, Molly Ringwald's aged quite well. Shockingly well, to be honest with you.
She looks the same, so yeah.
No, I think I actually think she
looks better now. I've never been attracted to her, so I can't. Yeah, but I could see it. Yeah, she does look better with the age. I think.
Yeah.
But not my thing.
All right, so we're gonna get a little different here, and I again don't go out there assuming that this is coming. This is one person who, granted, has been right before, said it was, but also been wrong too. So But Horror 2. Now, before I get into the movie itself, just to throw out there, this was made in 1994 by writer director Amos Kolek, but Horror 2's kind of has a odd history. It was not intended to be any kind of a sequel to Horror. It went into filming under the title Five Girls, and Amos's usual distributor Castle Hill released it to theaters under the title Bad Girls. And when Vidmark, of course, acquired this for the VHS release, since they had produced Ken Russell's Horror and owned the title, they just decided to alter the advertising and make it Horror 2, even though the only connective tissue to these two movies is the prostitution theme, because as we'll get into, it's
but it does. I mean, it wasn't a bad idea. I mean, it literally is. You have the LA one, then the New York one, so it kind of.
Oh yeah,
I think it's one of those things that does work.
It works, and certainly from a marketing standpoint, like
that's why I rented it.
Yeah, Horror 2, like why not? So once again, 1994, writer director Amos Kolek, and writer director star actually. In Horror 2, Jack sets himself up in the Hotel St. James to work on his book on prostitution in New York City. Along the way, he meets and grows fond of streetwalker Mary Lou. All right, so what's interesting about this movie, which is also based on apparently recorded conversations with Manhattan hookers,
not really based on, I mean, shot.
Yeah, I'm getting to it. Yeah, this is a mixture of actual actors and streetwalkers, which also was pretty unique at the time, and you can tell like who is an actual actor and who is an actual streetwalker. The IMDb will let you know, but the main girls, Mary Lou, played by Marie Nelson, and I'm slipping on her name, but the actress that played Lori, Maria Sukaritsa?
Marla.
Marla. Okay, my bad. Yes, played Lori. They're actresses, and you can tell.
Do you know where she's from? Do you recognize her?
I've seen her in a few things.
She's the milking the prostate girl that milks Stifler, or whatever his name is in the movie, in the end of Road Trip.
Really?
Yeah.
Fuck, I think.
Yeah, it's clicking, isn't it?
Yeah, I did. That's awesome, Todd. I did not. I knew she had she wasn't a big actress, but she had different credits.
That's probably your biggest one, I think, that you'd recognize her from.
That would probably be her claim to fame. Yeah. Oh, that's really cool.
Now you're like, Dan, I'm up in the rating now.
The movie. So
you learned it here.
This one has kind of an odd tone, because Amos plays Jack, the guy that's going and getting these prostitute interviews. I've gone back and forth on this. I actually feel, even though he didn't do a bad job, and maybe being a non-actor himself, it adds to some of the realism. I feel like it might have been a little better if he had an actual actor in the role of Jack. Maybe that's just me. I don't think he's bad. There's just like a few moments where I'm like, not that he necessarily could have afforded him, but like I don't know, an Anthony LaPaglia or somebody like that might have been good for this, or Michael Madsen, I could see. But like I said, it doesn't impact the movie too much. I just feel like it would have raised it up a few notches. And with this one, kind of similar. I mean, it's very realistic there's a scene with real streetwalkers. It's actually a couple, and that one felt a little haunting. Like that one was like a little, like a little off, in a good way for the story. But and yeah, this one gets a little nastier. The overall tone in this movie, it's a much sadder film.
Yeah. I think this is what screwed up the Horror 3 erotic thriller that we should have got. I think if they would have done that with Horror 2 from the get, this line could have, kept going.
It could have. I love the ending, which is kind of ironic to put it that way, because that's what he's talking about, is writing the ending that we get. I thought that was quite good, and I enjoyed both actresses that played Mary Lou and Lori. But yeah, this one's definitely a more downbeat film, slightly more graphic. Although again, these aren't like there for titillation. I mean, this one has a little more nudity, but nothing. There's no bump and grind or anything. There's no nudity from any of the actual streetwalkers or anything. So
that's the other thing that I kind of felt like it feels together too with horror, because it doesn't go for the titillation in this one either. So even though they're not connected, there's enough about them to just like feel, connected, even though they aren't.
Yeah.
I mean, it's doing a lot of the same. I mean, obviously he's not as good as Ken Russell, but it's covering like the tone, although this one is a little bit darker because Ken does always have the humor in his. But yeah, I do feel like it works as the East Coast companion.
Yeah, and I guess
because I do think there's a difference between East and West Coast streetwalkers.
It's funny because this is like 94. I mean, when you see that depicted in, those gritty New York. Yeah, 94 was a big year for me too. Moved to Washington State that year.
I didn't even know that this is, because again, high school, that was senior year. So like I wasn't paying attention, but I still went to the video store every week. But I wasn't keeping up as close to I used to in the magazines to see what was coming out. So I was very excited when I found out.
Yeah. And I'll be honest, I like this movie, I think, more than I did originally. I think when I first saw it, I wasn't like, I still enjoyed it, but I was like, oh, this isn't like the original horror.
I think I like it more every time I watch it, because when I watched it when the first Blu-ray came out a couple years back, it's like, I like it better than I remember. And when I watched it this time, I was like, you know what? This is kind of like Henry 2, where it's like not the same as the first Henry, but there's something about it I still really I like it. I love Henry 2 a lot more than Horror 2, I'll say that. But I mean, there's something about it different, but there's still something about it I really like.
Yeah, it's also, like I said, this one gets more unpleasant, like the assault scene and everything, and it's a good script, how everything kind of comes full circle, or does it. I like it. When the credits roll, I still have that feeling that I think I would have went for a more regular actor as Jack, though. I think that could have.
I think he's like the bridge between the real actors and the actual sex workers.
I do like it though, because he does feel like an actual guy. Like I think a lot of this doesn't work if you try and throw like a Richard Gere in there. We're not trying to tell a fantasy story. And I like this one very much in its own right.
Yeah.
I think it's worth seeing. And
unfortunately, this one's hard to see. So hopefully Unearth does rescue it, so you guys can pick this one up.
Well, like I said, I don't know that that's true. So
I'm sure
Stephen Myro might just say something if it's not.
We can always ask in the Unearth group.
Yeah.
But
we do have an Unearthed show coming soon, so maybe but I hope somebody does try and get Horror 2, because unlike Henry 2, I feel like this one, not a lot of people have seen it. At least now. I mean, the movie's been over 30 years old, so obviously some saw it
Henry
back
2
then.
got a DVD. Horror
Yeah.
2 has. I mean, it's stuck on VHS and Laserdisc.
There's a whole generation that hasn't checked it out.
Yeah,
So
at least Henry 2, like it had a couple DVD releases. Hasn't made the leap to US Blu-ray yet. Come on, MPI, but thank God for the imports.
thank God.
If I didn't mention, the imprint import is region free.
Okay.
And also the Henry one I just mentioned is too. The German media book.
So I guess what do you rate this one, Todd?
I really like it's nowhere near the first one. I'm gonna give it a solid 4. I think it's a solid watch.
Yeah, I'm gonna go 3.5, but I really did enjoy it, and I think the ending really stuck the landing.
It might go up on your next watch, because if I would have rated this last time after watching it after a couple years back, I probably would have gave it a 3.5 too. But this last one, I was like, yeah, this really.
I kind of again, my only thing is just that one, maybe again, a more experienced actor in the lead, but
no, I get that.
But that's a good comparison with Henry and Henry 2. Yeah. Henry 2 always had that reputation, I feel like, for a while, where it's like, oh, that's a piece of crap. And I was like, no, go back and watch it. I mean, I get it. It's like I had the same thought, like, who the fuck wants or needs a sequel to Henry Portrait of a Serial Killer? But,
I love Cricket. And she went and Grey's Anatomy herself.
So yeah. I mean, as far as like hooker movies go, I mean, there's also Mysterious Skin, although that's got a lot more going on. But I guess if you really want to talk fantastic movies, Mysterious Skin, and there are some others, but yeah. So real briefly, for those of you who've been patient, Todd, have you picked anything up from any Valentine sales? Or
I did grab some stuff off the full moon sale. What did I grab? I'll tell you. Ooh, nice. I said this is the year I'm filling in my gaps for full moon, so I had to grab some stuff during the sale because, well, it's the Valentine sale. It's always 50% off, and they had some good stuff. Still don't have that subspecies set 50% off, but soon as that one is, I'll probably grab it. So I basically went with the box sets this run just because there was I got to go through and see what I do and don't have, what I'm missing to fill in the gaps. So I kind of went with the high ticket items. I grabbed that Primeval's Ultimate Collector's Edition, the one that has the 3 versions, 3 Blu-rays. Mm-hmm. The swag comes in the box for $60. Good deal. Couldn't, because it's normally $120. And another one that's normally $120. Obviously had to pull the trigger. Ginger Dead Man Movie Collection tin.
Yeah,
for $60 at half off. How do you not? It's not.
Yeah.
Also, I am going to probably bitch about it. We probably will cover it at one point. Evil Bong 3D, The Wrath of Bong. They released the 3D Blu-ray, but it's not a 3D Blu-ray. It's a Blu-ray with an Anaglaph 3D, but it's an HD, and I have the DVD version of the same thing. So
help yourself.
Yeah, and it was half off, so it was only $20.
Yeah.
So it was, this is the time I'm going to do it. Which surprised, like if it would have been an actual Blu-ray 3D, I would have pulled the trigger day one.
Mm.
And then to fill in some gaps, I grabbed that sale exclusive, which is now sold out, of Full Moon's Demon and Monsters collection, the 10 Blu-ray set. That
had a little bit too much already on that.
Yeah, I remember. And it's not really in a box either. It's just like a card in stuck with the shrink wrap Blu-rays. Yeah. But it is like the 10 most recent titles, or 10 of the more recent, because it doesn't have Netherworld, but it has Seed People, or vice versa. That's one of them.
It has Seed People, I know.
Okay, then it doesn't have Netherworld. But of the new stuff, that's like probably the only thing not in there. Probably because it was probably selling well and I didn't want to include it. But
yeah.
But and I think I had 1, maybe 2 of them. So for the price point, it was cheaper than buying the 8 I needed.
I was a little more behind than I thought. I also got the Ginger Dead Man Blu-ray tin. I thought that was a cool gimmick. I love the second movie. And yeah, I was like, all right, I'm
Evil
in.
Bongiverse is ready.
Yeah, I might. It's I'm still not a big Evil Bong guy, so I couldn't pull the trigger on that.
Well, you got to get that one renewing the site.
that's why I waited. I was like, okay,
Yeah.
if they offer that again, I'll
No, it's
point.
it's offered. It's one of the ones
Okay.
on the list.
I'll probably get it that way. But I had more than I thought that I needed to pick up from them. I got Depth Streamer, Quadrant,
Yeah,
Bring
those
Her
guys.
to Me, Don't Let Her
Mhm.
In, Amy the Visitor, and
Yeah.
Blue Rita
And
from
those, well, I
yesterday.
don't have the Blue Rita one yet, but I know those other ones are all in the set. Yeah.
I
See,
had
I
those
should.
old German releases of
Yeah.
some of those for Franco, and I was like, okay, I'll grab it.
I'm worried they're gonna put a set out at the end and then like have the one exclusive one. Then you're like, fuck, full moon.
That's kind of always the gamble with Full Moon, with some of these possible sets that they do. I mean, I will say, like in the past, like with that Full Moon Classics, the stuff I did have, I was able to sell, and so there's always options. Other than that, I did order some stuff off Melusine. I'm still eyeing some stuff on Vinegar Syndrome. There's not a lot that I like need from them that's on sale anyways. But I did actually, normally I hate their t-shirt designs.
That's the one you like this time.
I did like the Sex World one, so I was like, maybe. We'll see. I don't really need any more shirts, but
Well, you'll wait for next month's sale then. Jeez, like it's what I was saying before we went. There's too many sales now. Like they have one
yeah,
every other month at this point. We're gonna have an Easter sale coming up. It's like,
yeah. Kino is like forever doing a sale. I think literally like 8 times a year. I think Kino's got some kind of sale going. Yeah. We get
it makes it
sales
hard
and
to
stuff.
it makes it hard to justify buying stuff when it comes out now. It really
Well,
does.
that's a problem for Vinegar Syndrome
Yeah.
because like there's certain stuff like the I can never even fucking remember what's the line that just put out Joys of Sex and female perversion.
Oh, I forget which line. They have so many lines, it's hard to keep track.
It's hard to keep track, and it's like you want
Cinematograph.
cinematograph. Was that for that one? Okay.
I don't know.
Yeah,
I
it
get
is. Yeah, it is. Like with those which are more expensive, almost every single one has gone on sale. So it's like,
yeah, but those are the ones I immediately don't buy because half the time I'm like, yeah, they're not something I
yeah.
need to watch immediately. I'm more worried about grabbing the Carpenter.
Yeah, I get that. I kind of want to watch Perversion Story again.
Yeah.
It's been a long time, so I don't know. That's on my list.
But
But for Melusine, I did get some smut that I needed on sale. I got the Lucky Stiff Bon Appetit double. I got Heavy Load and Lecture, Farewell Scarlet, and Woman in Love so far.
nice.
But that kind of caught me up, at least as far as stuff that's on sale.
I do want to catch up on the Picorama ones. I do like that line.
Yeah. I saved a little bit of money because like there have been a few exceptions where I've gotten a slip cover, but or a slip case because it did have exclusive whatever in it. But yeah. I'm still eyeing a few things. But Vinegar Syndrome, like I said, if I get anything there now, I think the Larry Clark Martha girl, I might grab that. But I'm still debating. I've got my cart. I got to check if there's anything that I don't have that's getting close to selling out. I think Love on Delivery is one that I know is now below 1,000, and being that it's on sale, it might shrink a little bit more. But the Stephen Chow film,
Oh, okay.
do not think it's one that, you're gonna care for too much, to be honest. But yeah. So
I'm just looking at anything that's sold out on Full Moon besides the 10 Blu-ray because I know you're asking. Oh, well, I know you grabbed the 10, but I'm curious if any of the box sets sold out.
I wasn't planning necessarily to put a Full Moon order, but you know what? Like we complain about prices a lot now, and it's like Full Moon is reasonable, and when it's on sale, it's like, what are you doing? Just fucking grab it.
And just FYI, the Evil Bong Blu-ray set on sale is $90. So getting it free for the $60 or however much, I think it's $60 for the monthly is a way better deal.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, I'll
'Cause
probably
because you get a year of the full moon streaming too. I
do.
really wish
And I
they
like
put.
supporting full moon.
Yeah, I really wish they put those Kendra movies on Blu-ray though.
Yeah, see, with those, the Barbie and Kendra stuff, I'm like, why? I don't know. Being that you're, pulling from different prints of certain things, I don't know if that factors into it, but I still cannot imagine that they're not going to put those on Blu-ray at some point. So I'm holding strong on that one. But yeah, I think that's all we got for you guys tonight. We hope you're having and have had a good Valentine's Day, and let us know.
I hope you and our whores kept you company.
Kept you company if you didn't have a date or anything like that. Be sure to comment what you think of the horror movies and what you might have picked up during the Valentine's sale in the comments.
You want a quick little behind the scenes tidbit, Dan?
Sure.
When I went to go live, Twitch wouldn't let us go live until I changed the name of the show.
Oh, really?
I switched. So as we were starting and I saw I didn't go live, I just switched the name to "If You Can't Say It, See It." So that's the name of the show on Twitch.
Okay.
I had to use the gimmicked name.
Well, Twitch is fucking lame.
Yeah, I can't say more. I'm sure YouTube's gonna bury our show, but I'm hoping all the chowdy guys fucking watch us and get us up to a few Ks on this one. Come on, guys.
Yes, Smut definitely is our sweet spot, it seems. So we'll see.
Shout out to our Indian friends.
Shout out India. Yes, click on our videos. All right. With that being said, be sure to join us live Wednesday for a stacked show. We've got lots of new reviews coming up, so you don't want to miss that. And patreon.com/fleshwound features. It all starts at just $1, a little more uncensored and a little more raunchy. We got Last Tournament on the left that's going to be continuing with some heavy hitters to come. And yeah, on that note, keep on pimping.
Money's on the dresser. Good night.